And when I was in there, I had just this idea that I should quit my job and I should go to Europe. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that.
Hello and welcome to Kept in Her Heart, where we talk about all things faith-related. I'm your host, Jenny Fuchs. Today, Father Timothy Yanta joins us from the Archdiocese of St. Paul in Minneapolis to tell about his interesting vocation journey. Thanks for coming, Father.
Thank you, Jenny. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So can you just give us a look into your vocation story?
Okay. Well, I was ordained at 45, so there's probably a lot of ins and outs of God working in my life and me responding to that. A lot of non-responsive parts of my life in the beginning, and finally kind of a conversion of my heart at the very end. And then even now, just wrestling with different things that opening myself up to God's will. But I'd say probably in particular what was in my life when I was very young, I remember that I had a desire to become a priest. I mean, it was just like for some reason I understood that. And then I also remember there was a time that I was at maybe Thanksgiving or Easter or something with my family and my cousins, which were about twice my age. So I was probably about 6, I think. And they asked me, what do you want to do when you're older? And I said, I want to become a priest. And they said, a policeman? And I said, no, a priest. And then they laughed at me and they said, that's a stupid idea. And then so that really was like a lie that I took on, but I didn't realize so much later in my life that in some ways the evil one jumping right in there with this lie about the priesthood is, something that I wouldn't want to do, and it's something that if we even thought about it, it's a dumb idea. So kind of go fast forward, I would say I got really lost in the world, just trying to find happiness in the world. Sure. Through money, and I was a pharmacist and trying to find happiness through activities, fishing, hunting, and downhill skiing, all these different things that I was able to do pretty much any of them. I had a really nice house on the city lakes over by Minneapolis, in the Denal Parkway areas, but my life was very unsettled. I wasn't happy. I had all this stuff, and I realized there's something wrong, and so part of that is a couple things happened. I actually was living with my brother John, and then he actually had a pretty strong faith life, and he was actively involved with that. And so I saw his life was somewhat different than mine. And then, and he was kind of coaching me and always kind of encouraged me to do things, but I was very resistant to it because he was my younger brother. And then, I have to admit this too, there was a lot of jealousy in my life with him because he was very successful. And he was my father's favorite. And so this is another thing that was kind of inhibiting this relationship with him. And so there's a lot of, again, some more healing and things that had to happen in my life where I could really receive him, respect him as my brother. So it was a real gift to be with him during that time. And then, well, he was always coaching me, asking me to do different things. One was going to a Bible study. He goes, but he didn't say that. He said, I'm in this Bible study, there's a lot of really cute girls there. And so I went, and there were a lot of cute girls there. And then I realized that, I've never looked at the Bible really and studied it. So that kind of opened my eyes and opened myself to that, praying with the Bible and looking at that and opening my heart to that. And then he asked me one day, he goes, why don't you sign up to do adoration? You're looking for some people to help out the adoration at church. And my response was, what in the hell am I going to do in there for an hour, And, but it was really convicting of me because after I said that, and because I was sometimes would get very forceful with him like that. He's trying to push things on me, and I'm like, and what am I going to do in there? But when I left, I had to spend some time alone, and I realized that I had never in my life spent an hour alone with God. And so I went, I went to adoration. And so in the adoration, it was probably some of the most powerful time of actually just openness and prayer, because I had no set agenda. I didn't have come in with like my breviary and a bunch of prayers and a homily I had to prepare and everything else that you got to kind of work through, and a schedule of prayer. But I just sat there and looked at Jesus, and he looked back at me, and I just was really at a lot of peace, and I just found it to be a place that I really enjoyed. And as a matter of fact, I signed up for another hour. I was coming in at 11 o'clock at night and going to 12, and so there's another time that opened up the same time, and so of course in Adoration Chapel they're loving you if you're coming in at 11 o'clock at night, right? So, and so it was life-changing, because when I was in there I was a pharmacist, and when I was in there I had just this idea that I should quit my job and I should go to Europe. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I was just kind of learning to trust God, and so it was going to be a week-long trip. It turned out to be a 13-week-long trip after I was done praying and God just kind of putting different people in my life. And so I was traveling around Europe by myself. And when I was in Europe, there was actually a time that I was there. I remember just sitting in this abbey, and I had this thought there that I should become a priest. And so guess what my response was? No. That's a stupid idea, right? Right, because and so I shut it down right away, right? And so so I went along with my journey, but here's a couple beautiful things that happened on that. Is one that I was all alone, and so I was very vulnerable and I was really taken from a world that I thought I was really a lot of self-control, and I was responsible for everything that I had and my own success and everything else. And that was all taken from me. I didn't know the language, I didn't have any food, didn't have anywhere to stay. So I had to ask God for help. Well, the help always came through another person. And so this is something that's like, I didn't really realize that before. I'm like, I guess that's how God answers prayers, is through other people, And so this is something that was really life-changing for me, because by the end of the trip, I was saying, I want to be the person that is not asking, but the one that God can respond through, So I was asking God to help me be like a deliverer of His grace, just being open to that. And then the other thing that was happening there too is I was so alone sometimes, and I felt kind of really isolated, nobody could talk to or whatever. But I always found peace in the Catholic Church and sitting with Jesus. And sometimes I'd sit in there like the whole day almost, in these beautiful cathedrals or basilicas, and I'd just look around and at the beauty of the place. And they were designed for people that could not read, so then I would be sitting there looking at the artwork and everything and going, well, who is this per saint, and I'm trying to, and so looking at their stories, and I just sit there and pray through that. So it kind of was like that, realizing that there are all these different saints and different people that were responding to God's call. And again, maybe I should be one of those people. And so when I got back, I started my own business, which is called Relief Remedy, which is a pharmacy relief business where I would go in and work for people that were in need of help. So every pharmacy has to have a pharmacist on staff, and so I knew as a pharmacist that was something that was very much in need. So I started that business, and then when I was doing that, I also just had a lot more time because I was open to volunteer anywhere. So, and being somebody in their mid-30s that was a male volunteering that would want to do things, the word got around that, this guy's. So it's St. Joseph's Home for Children and different things, a lot of things at church. One of the things that happened was Jerry Sony from Pro-Life Action Ministry called me up and said, I got your phone number and I want to ask if you'd be willing to go pray in front of the abortion clinic. Mildred Hansen, she was about, 80 some years old, still performing abortions. And I responded because I told God I would say yes to whatever He brought me. And so I said yes, and then she was just stunned that I would say yes. She said, "You're the first male that's ever said yes to me right away. Not that I have to go pray about it or whatever." So I said yes to her, but again, one of these moments were kind of even more powerful than the one where, kind of the Lord just kind of knocking me down a little bit, saying, you never really have ever spent an hour with me, but kind of really rocking my boat. I was knocked down like Paul almost, and it just had this message: how dare you go in front of another person's business and pray that they stop performing abortions when I'm doing the same thing, because I knew in the medical field and pharmacy what was going on, and with oral contraception, how that about up to 10% of the times that babies conceive, but it's aborted, but it's not really known to people. I mean, it's hush hush. You can't talk about these things. I knew where we're headed, that it's going to be now assisted suicide, that we just give mom and dad some pills or something, or a little elixir, and then we put them to bed, and then they're going to fall asleep, and our problems will be over. So there was a lot of evil choices that we were kind of being forced into, that were the demands of our society, and even, as we know, even way worse now, as far as and so I had to kind of stop what I was doing and just say, okay, I need to really pray through this and get that. And of course, God brought me all these people to help me with this. So that's another thing I just was realizing, that if I opened up myself to God, God would provide, and brought people to help me with that. And so going into that, what God was really teaching me too is I needed to trust Him. Mm-hmm. So no matter what was going to happen, as long as I followed Him, I would be okay. And so when I was in, people would call for the work, or I'd have people that were looking for help. I would explain to them about who I was as a pro-life pharmacist. And so to make a long story short, there's like 3 different responses. One was, that's very honorable, and it was a very small percentage of them. But that means that we can trust you, and that we can rely on. Because as a pharmacist, you got to be trusted with money, drugs, and everything else. And if they have no idea who you are, and it's like usually if you don't have a job, you're probably either addicted or stealing things. So just to be honest, so those people we had a very good working relationship, and I'd help them any other time. Then the far other end was the ones that laughed at me and said, you can't do that. This is the law. We have to do this. But there was a big section of people that were kind of quiet, and they were just like sitting there after I would kind of witness to them, and I had no idea what I was doing, and then I would start talking to them about, they would realize, they'd say, yeah, I've been thinking about this, I know this is wrong, and I said, yeah, if we don't do it, who will, right? If we know this, and we're not willing to stand up for the truth, who's going to, right? Mm-hmm. And so it became a big spiritual battle. I had no idea at that, that time, even now I'm still learning about, these spiritual battles, but became a very spiritual battle for me to go out and try to do what was right, because there was such an evil force that was behind all this. And I mean, people would want me to be fired. They just ridiculed me and just try to rip me apart. Because what? I was choosing something that was true and good and beautiful, and then I was trying to stand up for my own conscience rights, And so I realized there's something way beyond what was going on here, and I was involved with, that was beyond, being a pharmacist, right? Because it's like, and a couple other things happened where I was involved at Holy Family in St. Louis Park with Father Thomas Duffner. So he was very influential in my formation too, because he was just a real man's man. He liked to hunt and fish, and I loved to do that. So we went hunting and fishing, and so I kind of got to see him doing things that on like a natural. But it's through a supernatural level as a priest and somebody like to hunt and fish, and then being around him and him just encouraging me to do different things. And So at this time I was remodeling my house, and my only place I could find peace was at the Adoration Chapel. And I literally was in there all the time, and I'd see him there and other people. And when the Faith Formation director goes, you know, have you ever thought about being a priest? And I said, yeah, right. Yeah, but that's stupid, you know, to myself. But he goes, no, I think you should go talk to Father Duffner, you know. And so I went to talk to Father Duffner, and I thought for sure he's just going to shut down the whole idea, you know, because I thought that was a stupid idea. Why would God ever call me to be a priest? But I know I have to be very honest, too, that my life wasn't the most holy and sacred life all the way through this. I mean, so this is something I really felt I was unworthy, that there's no way that God would call somebody that had done these different things in their life. But anyways, I went to go see Father Duffner, and he said, yeah, I can see that, you know, why don't you keep praying, make sure you come and do a holy hour every day, just asking God, open up yourself to what God desires. And so I did all that, and it became to about Holy Week, and so I went in to go talk with him, and he said, you know, I think you should, the next step is for you to, right now, is apply for the seminary. And it was kind of really powerful because it was Holy Week. I mean, I think it was right before Palm Sunday. And so then I was like there at actually I went home again, and this is even a more powerful moment. And because I told him, I go, no, I don't, yeah, right, it's a stupid idea, but I should be married and have kids, because I really saw the beauty in marriage, and I like kids, and I thought it'd be such a beautiful thing to have. And there was this big conflict with God too, because, you know, I'm like dating and not finding anybody that I could get married to, and it's like, you know, well, and he kind of keep trying to force my will on things. So I had a very, very strong will, and God would just let me fall on my face, and so I went home, and it was kind of one of these real beautiful, powerful times of prayer, because my nephew had just won. He's like 25, 28 years old now, but he was in third grade then. For the Catholic Schools Week, he read his little paper, you know, at Mass. He had like 3 kids read, and his was, I know there's a God, and I know that He loves me. And he said it with such conviction. So this is before, or maybe, well, anyways, before Father Duffner had said that to me. So, but I just was taken back by, you know, how he said that, and so when I got home, I was like, well, do I believe that, right? Do I believe that there's a God, and do I believe that He loves me, right? So I had to wrestle with that. I was just kind of wrestling with that in prayer, and I go, well, if I believe that, why would I be so afraid to give my life to God, right? So there was like this kind of this wrestling with that, and then and so I said, I guess I would never know if I'm going to be called to be a priest unless I was going to be open to it and apply. So I said, I will open myself to apply to learning how to trust, you know, leaving everything behind and applying to the seminary. Well, it was such a beautiful, almost, and it's like one of these theophanies, or just I encountered, God showed me, like, He brought me to when I had died, and